we're asked to calculate a z-score. So it's a formula, looks like this, where x is the number you're trying to convert to a z-score. So we're going to plug in 1,821 in for x. Mu is the mean, and so they tell us the mean is 781 for the population. And then this Greek letter sigma is the standard deviation, so 240 goes in there. So to convert their rent to a z-score, we plug in 1,821 in for x, 781 for the mean, and 240 for the standard deviation. And so if you do this with a calculator, make sure to hit enter first. You got to figure out what the numerator is first. So subtract those two numbers. So the numerator is 1,040, and then divide it by 240 in the bottom. So we get z is 4.3 repeating. And they say round to 3 decimal places, so I'm going to stop here. That's their z-score. Is John an outlier? Yes, because our textbook says any z-score greater than 3 or a z-score less than -3 is an outlier. A lot of textbooks do say that too. So if your z-score is 0, that means your value and the mean are the same thing. If your z-score is if your value is really far from the mean, then your z-score is going to be huge. So his rent is much bigger than the average, right? That's why he got such a big z-score. And the z-score is big enough because it's greater than 3. Okay, so this question would be, how high would the rent have to be to qualify as an outlier? So let's say that this wasn't an outlier. To calculate this part, you want to know what a z-score of 3 would be. So plug in 3 in for z, because 3 is the outlier z-score, the upper outlier. So we don't know what that rent has to be. We got to solve for x. The mean never changes for the population. That's 781, and then 240 goes in for the standard deviation. So to get x by itself, you got to multiply both sides by 240, like we learned in algebra, because that's the opposite of dividing, right? So if you do that, that's 720 on the left. And then add 781 to both sides. So you get x is 1501. So a rent of $1,501 is the beginning of that outlier territory.